Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Expert Interview at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. Our special guest today is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who is well known to probably most of you, if not all of you. He's a Palestinian physician, activist, and politician who serves as General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, or also known as the Mubadara in Arabic. He has been a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council actually since 2006 and has served in many capacities in Palestinian politics as a member of the Palestine Liberation Organization's Central Council. In 2005, he was a candidate for the presidency in Palestine. In 2007, Dr. Barghouti was Minister of Information in the Palestinian unity government at the time, headed by Ismail Haniyeh. He's also a founder of Palestinian Medical Relief, a Palestinian NGO that provided for many years emergency and primary health care in the West Bank and in Gaza. Dr. Mustafa, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your participation in this conversation with us today.
Thank you, Khalil. It's nice to be with you.
Thank you. Let's engage in the art of conversation with regards to the situation taking place or unfolding in Palestine. As you know, and everybody knows, today marks day 335, 335th day in Israel's war on Gaza. More than 40,786 Palestinians have been killed and more than 94,000 injured. Out of the 2.3 million population in the Gaza Strip, almost 1.9 million Palestinians have been displaced at least once since October 7, 2023. In terms of the numbers, actually, the Lancet Medical Journal estimates that the total number of casualties is a lot more than 40,000. They put the number at potentially 186,000. My question to you this morning or this afternoon, has the Gaza war become a permanent feature of this unsettled region? Is there an end to this nightmare? 335 days of genocide and bloodletting without seeing a light at the tunnel. Is this something we just need to adjust to?
We should never adjust to this horrible situation. Because it's really a combination of three war crimes that are happening in parallel. The war crime of genocide, the war crime of collective punishment, and the war crime of ethnic cleansing. And now this war has been moved to the West Bank as well. And you see during the last 8 days, the Israeli army killed 39 more Palestinians in refugee camps in the north. 10 of them are children. And they injured more than 540 people, mostly civilians. And this brought up the number of Palestinians killed in the West Bank since October 7th to 680, and it's growing too. And the worst thing is that the level of destruction that the Israeli army is conducting in the West Bank is exactly similar to the kind of destruction they do in Gaza. They don't shy away from using airstrikes on civilian population in occupied people. The West Bank is totally occupied by the Israeli army, and yet they are conducting war tactics on occupied people. So we cannot live with what's going on, neither in Gaza nor in the West Bank. But that is continuing because of three factors up to now. The first factor is the fact that you have in Israel a fascist government, and you have growth of fascism in the Israeli society, which is absolutely refusing to see Palestinians as human beings. They dehumanized us in such a manner that they consider that the death of a Palestinian means nothing. The death of tens of thousands means nothing. And the fact that Netanyahu is in government is the major factor why this war is continuing. But the second very important factor is this behavior of the United States administration. They are allowing him to do it. If it wasn't for the 50,000 tons of explosives that the Americans gave to Netanyahu since October 7th, he would not have been able to continue this war.
Sure.
If it wasn't for the more than $23 billion of support from United States to Israel since October 7th, he would not have been able to continue. So we are talking about an American administration that is absolutely not doing anything serious to stop this war, apart from some statements here and there. And that in reality, they are providing the cover to Netanyahu to continue this war and defend him in the Security Council and in other places. But the third factor is actually the behavior of the Arab and Muslim countries and the Arab and Muslim governments, which has been so weak and so inappropriate in comparison to the threat that Netanyahu represents, not only to Palestinian people, but to the interest of these countries, including the declaration of a minister in Israel that he's planning to build a Jewish temple in the Aqsa Mosque. I mean, imagine, the third holiest place for 2 billion Muslims. So in my opinion, these three factors are the reasons why this war continues. But at the same time, why would it stop? This is the major question. And I think it will stop for three reasons too. The first one is our resistance and resilience. We are not giving up. Netanyahu will not get what he wants. And the Palestinians he will not be able to destroy Palestinian resistance in all its forms. Second, I think it's because Israel is losing a lot too. Israel is suffering now from the worst, probably, economic crisis in its history. And all major economic analysts say that they are just about to hit a very serious point. They already have a very serious deficit in the budget. Their economy, their rating in the financial market is down. So economic factor is a very important one. Of course, tourism collapsed, agricultural sector collapsed. IT now is facing big problem, and it is the sector that provides for 50% of Israeli export. So the economic factor is a major one. But the third one is the international rise of solidarity with Palestinians, including the rise of boycott, divestment, sanctions campaigns. And I have great hope in American young people. I do hope, and I call on young people in the United States of America, with the beginning of the new school year or university years, to immediately start campaigning and demonstrating to stop this terrible genocide war.
Thank you, Mustafa. Let me explore a bit more with you U.S. policy, or what is known as the U.S. diplomatic effort to try to reach a deal with regards to ceasefire and exchange of hostages for prisoners, which has been in the works for months now without any clear-cut results. The administration, just few blocks from where I'm sitting right now, met this Monday morning. The National Security Council met and promised what they call a last-ditch effort to bridge the gaps between the parties on a take-it-or-leave-it basis, whatever that means. What's your assessment as a Palestinian leader of this process? Is there really hope for a deal after 11 months of this brutal genocidal war?
I'm not sure. And if the American administration will keep doing what it's doing, I don't think we will see a deal. The problem is that I don't know who is speaking on behalf of the American administration. To be honest with you, I feel that Blinken is working for Netanyahu more than he's working for Biden. And the proof to that, look how many times Netanyahu quoted Blinken in his last speech, as if Blinken is giving him the green light each time to get away with his lies. And everybody knows, including Israelis, they speak about this, how big a liar is Benjamin Netanyahu. So I don't think the American administration is speaking with the same tongue, with the same language. I'm sure there are huge differences between William Burns and what Blinken says. But at the same time, the American administration cannot just put a proposal on the table as they did before to allow Netanyahu to undermine it without doing anything. So if they put a proposal on the table and tell Netanyahu, if you don't accept it, we'll have a military embargo on you, or we will suspend supplying you with military weapons, then that will make a difference. But if they allow Netanyahu one more time to play the games, because he already undermined an agreement 4 times, and he undermined the same proposal of President Biden after Hamas accepted it. And now he claims that Hamas was the one which refused it, which is a lie again. So if the American administration says, yes, there is a proposal, but if Netanyahu doesn't accept it and does not implement it, we will do this and that, maybe there will be a chance. But if it is repeating the same old scenario, this will be very dangerous because it could mean continuation of this terrible genocide. But more than that, it could mean the loss of elections for the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris must know that she will not get a single vote from any pro-Palestinian or any Arab or any Muslim in the United States, especially in Michigan and Minnesota, as long as this war continues.
In recent weeks, as you know better than me, and our participants or viewers, while the worldwide attention remained focused on the war in Gaza, a rather shocking spike in Israeli use of force has taken place with the Israeli military and internal security service attacking Palestinian targets in the West Bank, as you just alluded to in the previous answer. Using lethal, warlike tactics. And Janine, I think you used the word, air bombardment, which has never been used before on a sitting target in a way under occupation. We've been following events in Tul Karim, Qalqilia, Tubas, Nur Shams, and which, according to the UN agencies, essentially are a violation of basic human rights. Thus far, more than 652 Palestinians have been killed, including 150 children. Why is Israel waging war on the Palestinians in the West Bank? Why is this war we have witnessed for 11 months in Gaza being transferred now to the West Bank? What are the motives and objectives of Israel there?
Well, the actual number of people killed in the West Bank now is 680, including 152 children.
It's hard to keep count.
Yeah, it grows every day. I mean, I'm sure by the end of today, the number will be different, will be more. I do believe that the main goal of the attack on Gaza was really to achieve what they are planning to do in the West Bank. The attack on Gaza was to break any Palestinian resistance to the Israeli plans in the West Bank. And look at what Netanyahu did in his press conference yesterday and 2 days ago. He showed one more time the map of Israel, which includes all of the West Bank, as he did 2 weeks before the 7th of October in the United Nations General Assembly, insulting anything that is called international law, and showing the map of Israel, including annexation of West Bank, Gaza Strip, and the Golan Syrian Heights. Now he's repeating the same thing, and I believe their goal has always been land appropriation, expansion of settlements, and annexation of the West Bank. In reality, this is all combined with intention of ethnic cleansing. They started already the ethnic cleansing in Area C, the so-called Area C in the West Bank, which is 62% of the West Bank. And they have deprived the Palestinian Authority from any authority at all, completely. And all these invasions in Jenin and Tul Karim and Tubas are in Area A, which is supposed to be under Palestinian security, which is gone. It's over. So Israel is destroying all Palestinian structures, and trying to annex and Judaize the West Bank completely. For them, the formula is as follows. There are 7.3 million Palestinians living on the land of historic Palestine, including in 1948 areas, West Bank, Gaza, Jerusalem, versus 7.1 million Jewish people. What is the solution? 2 states they don't want. 1 democratic state for everybody they also don't want. So what is their solution? Ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. It's as simple as that, and it fits totally with the Zionist ideology, but especially with the prevailing now part of Zionist ideology that was created by Jabotinsky. And it is not a coincidence that Netanyahu was celebrating Jabotinsky the other day and reminding everybody with what Jabotinsky said. What Jabotinsky said is that this land should be for Jewish people only, and don't try to coexist or co-live with Palestinians on this land, because Palestinians will never give up their resistance for a country of their own. These are his words. And that's exactly what Netanyahu is trying to do. So he's attacking Gaza because he wanted to break the resistance in Gaza, to break also the ability of the Palestinians to steadfast in the West Bank.
Let me ask you, Dr. Mustafa, about the role of Jewish settlers in this enterprise or process that you just described. You are living with more than 700,000 settlers, illegal settlers, between the West Bank and Jerusalem suburbs. And these people seem to be shifting gears. Their role seems to be changing. Is the Israeli government in control of the settlers, directing them to do these pogroms that we are watching in occupied Palestine, or are they on their own? The opposite. They are part of the government. They're in charge, in a way, of the government. How do you describe the settlers' role these days?
Since more than a year, the settlers are in control of the government and not the opposite.
Wow.
And when we speak about settlers, this should remind everybody with the biggest failure of Oslo Agreement, which was signed without insisting, as you remember, Khalil, without insisting on complete and total stop or freeze of all settlement activities. We had 120,000, 125,000 settlers at the time, 93. Now we have 750,000. And these settlers now are behaving as the base of fascism in Israel. They're gangs, they're armed to their teeth. The Israeli government distributed in the last year alone 100,000 weapons, 100,000 guns to these settlers. Many of them serve in the army anyhow. And these settlers have become the base of extremism and fascism in Israel. They have become a huge political power. They have 16 members in the Israeli Knesset out of 120, distributed between Jewish fundamentalist parties and Likud itself. They have 2 major ministries in their hands: the finance ministry by Smotrich, who doesn't shy away from calling himself fascist homophobe, and Ben Gvir, both of whom were actually accused by Israeli legal system, by Israeli judiciary, as parts of terrorist groups in Israel, Kahana movement in the past. And these terrorists are now, one of them is in charge, is the real governor of the West Bank, Smotrich, and he's also in control of finance ministry, which means he supplies the money and supplies the laws to the settlers to justify their taking over of the West Bank. And Ben Gvir is in charge of internal security, which means he provides the guns and he oppresses the Palestinian prisoners who are under his control. And he runs the campaigns to attack Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem and the Muslim and Christian holy places there. So you are talking about fascists in charge. And these settlers have become the main base, besides religious fundamentalist groups in Israel, the main base of the growth of fascism in Israel. If I was a Jewish person or an Israeli person, I would feel horrible if they really have sufficient understanding of what's happening, they should feel horrible because Israel is going in the direction of fascism, which will turn into internal fight in Israel very soon. It started before the 7th of October about changing the legal and judiciary system. Fascism knows no borders. They attack now Palestinians and they kill Palestinians, but eventually they will attack everybody.
Many of us observers of these developments in Palestine from a distance, including yours truly, are somewhat stunned, actually, by the total absentification or even self-absentification of the Palestinian Authority from these developments and these events that you just described. Where is the Palestinian Authority in today's conflict? Is it an active party or is it voluntarily reduced to being a bystander? Can besieged Palestinians in the West Bank, for example, as we speak, reasonably expect some protection from the PA and its security agencies?
No. Unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority does not provide any protection to any Palestinian, although they have, according to some figures, about 50,000 gunmen in the different security structures. But they don't even try to protect Palestinians who are attacked in Ramallah, the center of the Palestinian Authority. And they continue the security coordination with Israel, which is, in my opinion, shameful. The whole paradigm of security coordination with your occupier, where you are supposed to provide protection to your occupier without being able to protect yourself or your people from the same occupier, in my opinion, was one of the worst outcomes of this terrible Oslo agreement. But the problem with the Palestinian Authority is that it has marginalized itself by being so passive regarding what was happening in Gaza, and now being absolutely passive about what's happening in the West Bank as well, allowing Israel practically to disarm them from any authority. Smotrich is not only, and his government are not only marginalizing any security authority of the Palestinian Authority in Area A, but actually Smotrich now is stripping off the civil authority of the Palestinian Authority from Area B, and says that he will not only build illegal Israeli settlements there, but will demolish Palestinian structures that he doesn't like, although the licensing of these structures should be by the Palestinian Authority. Anyhow, I think the Palestinian Authority did not serve itself by taking such a passive behavior, but more important, they failed up till now in implementing what we agreed about in our Beijing conference, where all the parties met, including Fatah, and Fatah was represented by its deputy head. And they signed, as we did, an agreement about forming a national consensus government to help our people and to prevent Israel's effort to separate West Bank from Gaza, and to prevent Israeli plan to keep occupation of Gaza and create a structure of collaborators to work with them. The agreement in Beijing provided, in my opinion, a safe way to save the Palestinian Authority from the destiny that the Israelis are planning for it. But unfortunately, up till now, nothing has happened. The president did not initiate consultations as he should, according to the agreement, to initiate a national consensus government. They haven't also called for the meeting of a unified leadership, which we also signed on in Beijing. And by continuing this path, I think they are causing very big harm, not only to the Palestinian people, but to themselves and to their status in the public opinion, but also in the long run to their future as an authority.
Let me conclude in light of what you just said with the following. As you know, it's a bit absurd for you as a Palestinian, for me as a Palestinian American, to talk about the day after when there is nothing over yet. I mean, there is no day after. We need to stop, first of all, the genocide taking place today. But in light of what you just described, is the PA, which is often mentioned by the US in a revamped, maybe improved version of it, acceptable or legitimate from a Palestinian perspective candidate for basically taking over or governing the decimated Gaza Strip today?
No, Palestinians want the implementation of Beijing Conference, Beijing Declaration, which is a formation of a national consensus government, which could be accepted by all parties. And Hamas was very clear. They said to us in the meeting that they don't want to be the government of Gaza, and they don't want to be even in the government of Gaza. And we need a unified government that takes care of both West Bank and Gaza and obstruct Netanyahu's plans. And we also talk about interim government, because at the end of the day, what we need is free democratic elections. The people of Palestine have the right to choose their leaders freely and democratically, like everybody else. And I assure you, Khalil, had we have elections in 2021, we would not have had this war. We would have had a pluralistic democratic system. We would have had a situation where no single party, neither Hamas nor Fatah nor any other party, would have gotten absolute majority. And that pluralistic democratic system would have been the best solution. And maybe we would not have had this war, I'm sure of that. But so eventually there has to be democratic elections. But meanwhile, let me tell you what's going to happen. Israel doesn't talk about the day after. And Netanyahu is frequently criticized because he doesn't respond to any suggestions about the day after. And I think it is clear why. He doesn't talk about the day after because for Netanyahu, the day after is what we have today. For him, for him, the goal is to keep Israeli military occupation of Gaza completely. And then to create a cluster of collaborators under the name of a trust that would collaborate with the Israeli occupation. And by the way, I happened to see a interesting document by the so-called Jewish Institute for American National Security, led by Elliot Abrahams, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That document, I think, was issued in February. And if you read it, you will see that everything that Netanyahu does is exactly in that document. And that makes me, almost sure that he had something to do with that document. So, in my opinion, everybody talks about the day after except Netanyahu, because Netanyahu doesn't want the PA in Gaza, does not want the PA even in the West Bank, he wants to deprive Palestinians from the right of self-representation. And that is the most dangerous element politically of what we see today. And that's where, if the leadership of the PLO should be very worried. This paralysis of their behavior, this carelessness is absolutely inconsistent, even with the fact that they should survive. Care about their own survival. This man wants to kill even the PLO and the right of the Palestinians to represent themselves through the sole legitimate representative, which is called the PLO. So, in my opinion, this is what he plans. Doesn't mean he will succeed. Of course, he will not succeed. I trust our people. I believe he will not be able to break our resistance in all its forms. But that is the plan that he is following. And he's using the weakness of the American administration and the lack of response from the American administration to his crimes to proceed with his plans and to be so arrogant, especially after he came and received all this warm welcome in the American Congress.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barghouti, for being generous with your busy time and spend these minutes helping us decipher, if you will, or try to understand these complicated issues. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this. And Arab Center Washington, D.C. remains in touch, so you do the same. Thank you.